people never even knew existed. The monad is the unified field behind consciousness, the source point where nothing is separate, nothing is missing, and everything is already connected before you even think it. Every thought you have, every intention you set, every desire that rises in you, it all comes from this field first. Your awareness interacts with it constantly, even when you're completely unaware of the connection. When you align with the monad on purpose, your manifestation stops being a request and becomes a command of resonance. You're calling from the very field everything responds to. This is what people accidentally stumble into during their most powerful moments, and what they lose just as quickly because they don't know how they accessed it in the first place. And there is a way to access it deliberately, a way the archonic distortions absolutely hate, because it cuts right through fear, urgency, and doubt in a single move. It's called the monad call. But before you understand how it works, you need to understand something else that you've probably been asking by now. Archons aren't shadows lurking in another dimension. They're far closer than that, and far more disruptive. They're the internal distortions that pull you away from the monad, the fear that tightens your decisions, the urgency that makes you rush, the doubt that blinds your clarity, the mental noise that scatters your focus. These patterns don't attack you from the outside, they work from within, subtly bending your awareness until you forget where your real power sits. Think of them as the forces that keep your consciousness fragmented. Every time you spiral into overthinking, every time you feel pressured to figure everything out right now, every time you seek answers outside yourself because you don't trust your own perception, that's an archonic pull. They weaken the internal signal you send into reality, not by blocking your manifestation, but by distorting the intention before it even reaches the inner field. People think their manifestations aren't working because the universe is slow, but often the intention is simply not clean. Chaos isn't your enemy. It's the echo of a mind that forgot its center. Archonic patterns feed off this chaos. They keep you reactive, overstimulated, constantly chasing something just out of reach. They want your awareness scattered because scattered awareness cannot align with the inner field. And when you're disconnected from the monad, your desires lose their magnetism. But once you recognize these patterns for what they are, distortions, not truth, you step outside their influence. You finally see that nothing ever stood between you and the field of creation, except the noise that pretended to be your voice. The monad call works because it's not something mystical that happens on its own. It's something you perform when you choose to shift your state. It becomes effortless once you understand that you can't connect to the monad while you're tangled in the illusions that distort your energy. When you're spiritually awake enough to recognize those distortions, the technique becomes incredibly clear. And if it feels easier to approach it in steps, here's the hidden structure behind the monad call. Even though the experience itself is smooth and simple, you start by catching the illusion, deliberately noticing the fear, the urgency, or the doubt that tries to pull you into fragmentation. Calling it out is what opens the doorway. This is the moment you begin the technique. From there, you move into dropping into certainty, shifting into the state you would naturally embody if the outcome was already yours. You breathe differently, you think differently, and your energy aligns with that version of yourself as if it has already happened. Once that state settles, you ease into the stillness, that quiet, inner steadiness where you're not chasing the result or forcing anything into place. This stillness is what allows the inner field to register a clean, undistorted signal, a signal built on inner knowing rather than need. And then you finish with detachment, not by abandoning the desire, but by releasing the pressure around it. You hold the energy of completion without gripping it, letting it exist as something real, rather than something you're desperately trying to reach. But that's not everything, because as soon as you attempt this, something unexpected will start to happen. Every time you get close to truth, chaos tries to block the signal. The moment you start moving toward real alignment, not the surface-level kind, not the fake calm you force yourself into, but true inner coherence, something strange always happens. The mind suddenly becomes louder. Thoughts that weren't bothering you all day suddenly rush in like a storm. You feel restless. You feel distracted. You question yourself. You doubt whether any of this even works, and it feels almost personal, like something inside you is trying to pull you away from a moment of clarity you were about to step into. This isn't a coincidence. This is the archonic resistance mechanism in full force. They are the distortions inside your own mental field, the fear loops that randomly spike out of nowhere, the panic triggers that appear right when you start feeling confident, the old doubts that whisper the same lines you thought you left behind years ago. These patterns don't activate when you're drifting through life unconsciously. They activate when you get close to breaking their influence entirely. When you approach the monad call, these distortions flare up because the inner field dissolves everything they depend on. The monad is coherence. The archons are fragmentation. So of course they'll resist the moment you start stepping out of their territory. This is why people feel anxious right before a breakthrough, why they get tired just as they're about to meditate, why their mind suddenly becomes chaotic the second they choose to align. The resistance is not proof that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're finally touching the right frequency. And this is the part